guys, I'm Brenda Harvey, author of The Conspiracy. Welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new. And if you are new, I would love it if you would subscribe to this channel. If we get 25 subscribers on this channel, then I will record an audiobook version of my book, The Conspiracy, and I will post it on YouTube for you guys. It won't interfere with any regular postings. It'll just be kind of an extra thing for you guys. And while we're talking about The Conspiracy, I have two books out, The Conspiracy and The Lead. They are on Amazon and Amazon Kindle. Links will be in the description below, and you definitely should check those out because if you haven't, then you're a tiny bit behind here. I do talk about them a lot, especially to use as examples, since it's easier for me to assume that you have... Hi, Freya. This is Freya. She makes guest appearances sometimes. Since it's a lot easier for me to assume you've read my book and I'm more familiar with my book than to assume everyone has read Harry Potter, and I know Harry Potter perfectly. Don't forget to like this video, and today we're going to be talking about character development, which of course means we have to talk about the hero's journey, and I know a good portion of my audience has heard this recently and doesn't want to hear it again, so don't worry, we're only going to lightly brush on it. So yeah, let's get into the video. Oh yeah, guys, one more thing. Make sure you're keeping up with my website because that's going to have the most up-to-date information on all of my books coming out and things like that. It's also going to have more like behind-the-scenes things. So yeah, make sure you're watching that. So today we were talking about character development, which obviously means you're going to have a start point and an end point. So you're going to have a point where your character starts, and hopefully by the end they will be a better person. Now there's, of course, villain development, is that what you call it? Where typically they're going to start as a good person and end as a bad person. And we sort of, and with a lot of the Disney remakes like Maleficent and Cruella, we sort of see where the villains got their evil, if that makes any sense to you guys. But you're always going to have a start and end point for your characters. And so one of the things that happens all the time in English class, I'm sure you've heard of it, it's this thing called the hero's journey. A lot of you really don't want to listen to me talking about this, so we're only going to brush on it. So the hero's journey starts at normal life. This is those first few chapters, up to 10 chapters, I think, typically, where nothing's happening. It's kind of boring. We don't know what's going on. It's normal life. Sometimes it sucks, sometimes it's great. And then you have the call to adventure. And that is, oh my gosh, something happened. I need to do something. But then there's a refusal of the call where it's like, you know what, screw it. I don't want to go. I like my normal life and just no. And then there is typically the meeting of a mentor, which one of the best examples, I think, of the hero's journey, we are not talking about the Odyssey. We'll talk about it later. But I'm not talking about it right now because I'm sure everyone's sick of it. But Star Wars New Hope. I think that is one of the best examples of hero's journey. So normal life, we're going to be following Luke because we don't really know any other characters. So, it starts normal life. You see Luke, he's on Tatooine. He's, like, going through the motions of his life. He's kind of bored. He doesn't want to be there. And then there is a call to adventure, and that would be finding the droids. So that would be C-3PO and R2-D2, and finding the message from Leia. Then there's refusal of the call, which meeting the mentor and refusal of the call, I personally think are a bit mixed, or a bit flip-flopped, because Luke goes in search of R2-D2 and meets Obi-Wan, who is going to end up being the mentor, but he first refuses to leave Tatooine with Obi-Wan because he is still living his life, going through the motions, etc., etc., and he doesn't really, he wants action, but he doesn't want it that bad, especially if you think about what's going on in the context. If you haven't seen Star Wars, you are insane. Next is crossing the first threshold. So I think for this in Star Wars, that would be when the stormtroopers kill Luke's aunt and uncle. So then he's committing to the journey. He's ready to go. I'm not going to talk about Star Wars anymore because that's going to be spoilers, and I know at least one of you hasn't seen Star Wars. So, moving on. Tests and ally. So this is going to be when you are meeting the rest of your crew, the rest of the main characters, sort of. They're like the main side characters, if that makes any sense. The main supporting characters. That makes no sense whatsoever, but we're gonna go with it. So that is also typically when you're going to meet the main villain. Approaching the innermost cave, and that is when you come up with your biggest roadblock. And then it would be the Supreme Ordeal. This is when our hero or heroine is going to take down the villain and save the world, right? So next is the reward, seizing the prize, you're victorious, hooray. You have the road back, you're going back to what happened, you're a changed person. That is actually the next step. It's called the resurrection. It means you are a better person now. Hooray! After this adventure, stuff happened, now you're great. It is the return to normal life. Sort of. So you return to normal life, but you're also a better person, you've changed, there's a lot going on, etc., etc. So that is the hero's journey. Now, we can finally move on. Next, we have a few examples. So obviously, I'm gonna get it out of the way for you guys. We have Odysseus and the Odyssey. This is my copy of the Odyssey. It is sort of annotated. I had to read this for school. It took almost an entire, I think it did take an entire semester to read. But still have it. Anyway, that is not what we're talking about. So Odysseus, he obviously goes on this journey, and that is what the hero's journey is based off of. And yeah, so if you haven't read it, you're going to have to read it eventually. So, moving on. So, next is probably a little lesser known. So there is a TV show. It is on Disney Plus. It's called Once Upon a Time. It has 6 seasons. And in it, main plot, story characters, main Disney characters. Remember those? Snow White, Seven Dwarfs, etc., etc., etc. Those characters, they get transported into the real world. And so there is this one character named Regina. She is the evil queen. And so when we first start out in the story, she's the evil queen. She's the evil queen. She's doing her evil queeny things. And throughout these episodes, she ends up becoming a good guy. And it's a really cool journey. If you haven't seen it, you should definitely check it out. So next we are going to be talking about Loki. That is important to remember. We are talking about this main timeline Loki, not whatever's going on in the Loki TV series. Diagram from Back to the Future. If you haven't seen it, what have you been doing with your life? So we are talking about main timeline Loki, not whatever's going on in the Loki TV series. Got it? Okay, moving on. So, I am not an expert in this, obviously. So Loki, throughout the main timeline of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, he goes from being the god of mischief, troublemaker, to still being the god of mischief and still being a troublemaker, but in a different way. And I'm not going to spoil it. And so, you know what? These guys do it a lot better than me. So, there is a channel on YouTube called Cinema Therapy. They do something called Villain Therapy, and they kind of talk about sort of what's going on with villains in popular movies, and they did an episode on Loki, main timeline Loki. We are not talking about this weird timeline split, which I still don't understand how that works in Back to the Future, but you know what? It doesn't matter. But we are talking about the main timeline. So that is also what they are talking about, and I will leave a link to that video from Cinema Therapy up there. So you should definitely check that out. Because they explain it so much better. And what they said, again, Cinema Therapy, not me. What they said was Loki ends where Thor begins. So Thor, again, goes on another separate journey. He does his heroing, and he ends a better person? Give and take. But Loki ends where Thor starts. So we see Thor start where he's being heroic and saving people for glory. That is where Loki ends. So again, make sure you check out that Cinema Therapy episode. It's really good. Check it out, guys. It's great. So, finally, we are going to talk about Iris. If you have not read both of my books, now is a good time to go buy those on Amazon and read them. So, Iris, she starts out not trusting people. She doesn't really like people. She's been hurt in the past by people, and she'd just rather kind of stick to her own hamster ball and not let anyone else in that hamster ball. She just kind of wants to stay in hers and not, like, interfere with anyone else and not get, like, out of her hamster ball and go into someone else's hamster ball with all of their people. She just kind of wants to stay in her hamster ball with her people and, like, never try to let other people into her hamster ball, and this doesn't make any sense, so moving on. But where we leave her at the end of the lead is she has sort of let people in, and she's making sure one of them doesn't die. See? Character development, and she does go through a lot more character development in the third book, I promise. Coming out in October. Super excited for you guys to read it. But, of course, I'm not going to spoil it. I'm not going to tell you that character development, but where you are with Iris right now is she has let some people in, and she's making sure they don't just die, because, let's be honest, she would have let them die in the beginning. That was a lot. It took me 5 takes to get that done, and you really didn't need to know that. So that's kind of all I have to say, so moving on. Okay, you guys, thank you so much for watching this video. If you liked it, please leave a like. That means I know you liked this video and enjoyed it. While you were down there, please subscribe to this channel. Again, if we get 25 subscribers, I will record an audiobook version of The Conspiracy. And again, it won't interfere with any regular uploads. It's just for you guys. And while we're talking about, and if you don't know what The Conspiracy is, that is my first book. You know that by now because you've watched this video. And I have 2 books out, The Conspiracy and The Lead. So make sure you buy those. Again, I use those a lot for the examples on this video, so if you haven't read those, then you are going to be confused and you're going to get spoilers and you're going to hate me, so please don't hate me and buy my books. And I would love to do a Q&A for you guys, so leave a comment with any of your questions you want me to answer. Make sure you are watching my website for the most up-to-date information, and I will see you guys next time. Bye. Yeah. Where you currently have Iris, she has become a better... She's